weather. It's good and then it's bad. It comes in and goes out.
Well, we have you now. So welcome everyone to today's Thursday, January 7th, first of the new year public meeting of the Missoula Board of County Commissioners. I'm Dave Strohmeyer. We also have with us Commissioners Juanita Vero and Commissioner Josh. I'll begin with a land acknowledgement. Missoula County acknowledges that this event today takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. And before our next standard item on the agenda, just a few prefatory words. In light of yesterday's insurrection in the U.S. Capitol, where I think we all witnessed, at least for me, the extremely distasteful sight of mobs of folks with Confederate flags juxtaposed next to American flags in the U.S. Capitol by this group. It has struck me as ever more poignant and significant the words of what we're going to recite here in just a moment. And at least for me personally, I am completely unwilling to allow any political party, ideology, or individual to co-opt and simply use and claim for their own purposes the American flag. So with that, Violet, would you bring up the image onto our screen? So if folks in attendance would like to join with me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. So continuing with our agenda today, are there any public announcements that folks on staff would like to make, or the other commissioners? I would just announce that on Tuesday of this week, we convened the first Board of Directors meeting of the newly established Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, with the goal of reestablishing passenger rail service through the southern tier of Montana. And this includes counties as diverse and geographically distant as Missoula County, Sanders County to the west, all the way over to Dawson and Webo County on the far eastern edge of the state. Any other announcements?
So, Dave, I'd like to do one. If I may. Are you there?
We are there. Can you hear us?
Okay, I couldn't tell. I didn't hear an acknowledgement. All right, thanks. This is Josh, by the way. And I just wanted everyone to notice that we have a new chair of our BCC, as our very own Dave Strohmeyer, and welcome him to this role. And Dave, it was and Juan, it was a treat playing that role last year, and fitting you're doing it right now, Dave. Is whatever I did, I did the best I could to emulate you and learning how to facilitate these meetings. So welcome to this role, and I'm glad I got to do it for the last year.
You bet. And the opportunity will come around again at some point for you. So. Thanks for your service.
I want to say, if anybody was wondering about the reasoning behind this rotation, it has to do with who's running for office when. So a person isn't the chair while they're running for office. There you go.
Yep. Good point, Josh. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next on our agenda, and this is something we have every week, is an opportunity for public comment on items not on the agenda, but still within the purview of Missoula County government. If you offer comment about us establishing a space force or some such thing, that's outside of our purview here in local government, but if there's something you'd like to comment on that is not already listed on the agenda, now is your opportunity to do so. And I should also say, either now or during each of the public hearings that will be coming up, if you do want to comment or offer testimony and are connected to the internet, I would request that you would use the raise hand function, and this is accomplished by, in your menu bar for Microsoft Teams, you'll see a little icon of a hand up at the top of the screen, or wherever on the screen your menu bar appears. Click that, that will activate your hand, and I can see that you are wanting to speak, and then I will call on you in the order in which I see you listed on the screen. For folks who are just calling in by phone, we have your phone numbers, and we'll try the best to go through those also to make sure that you're not being passed over. So any public comment on items not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Our claims list for this week includes claims as of December 9th through December 29th, 2020. These were claims approved by the Commissioner's Office, and they totaled $3,270,309.77. If you have access to the electronic version of the agenda for today's meeting, you can click on the current claims list, and that will provide you a more detailed accounting of what that amounts to. So without any further ado, we'll jump into our 4 public hearings that we have scheduled today. As I mentioned earlier, please raise your hand if you would like to testify. Each public hearing will begin with a staff report. I'll then open it up for public comment. Please restrict your comments to 3 minutes or less. We have a lot of business to get through today. I will be timing, and you only get 1 bite at the apple, so don't expect to be commenting multiple times. So try not to be redundant of other folks who are commenting, and try to be as succinct as possible. And thank you all for joining today. We'll begin with the Thorpe family transfer and a staff report from Matt Heimel.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Matt Heimel with CAPS. I turned my camera on, but I'm not sure if you actually see me in there.
We see a lovely white wall.
I don't see
No,
you, Matt.
I did this background effect, but I might have to turn that off.
It's okay. That. Are you still with us, man?
I'm still there. Sorry, just trying to figure this out. It was just working for me.
Well, as long as you can share your screen. Up there you are.
There you are.
I faded
No,
in. Okay.
I can't see. I don't see anything, Matt.
I think there's some technical issues on your end, Josh.
Maybe I'll jump off and start again and see if I'll do it real quick and see if that helps.
Okay.
So make sure you can see me though, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Strohmeyer, really fast, I just wanted to say when we get to public comment, just to remind, there's quite a few folks calling in. When we ask for public comment, you can press *6 to make sure that you're unmuted and we can hear you give your comment.
Thanks, Violet. You're back.
Yeah, there we go. Now I can see everybody. Thank you. Sorry for
You have your name depicted today and not just guest. All right, Matt, it's all yours.
Okay, so again, this is Matt Heimel with CAPS, and before presenting my staff report, I'd just like to confirm that the applicant and/or the representative is with us right now. I know I saw a Thorpe username on our participant list.
I'm here as well, Matt. Sean Amundsen with 406 Engineering.
Okay, great. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Everyone can see my PowerPoint image?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a request from Tom and Jacqueline Thorpe to use the family transfer exemption in the Montana Subdivision and Platting Act. They propose to create and transfer 2 parcels of land, one each to immediate family members by use of this exemption. The parcels would be transferred to their daughter and son, Stacy Blatty and Randall Thorpe. The subject property is at 4400 South 7th Street West. And this property has been approved for 2 family transfer exemptions for the same recipients in 2008 and 2015. And in both of those cases, substantial changes to the lot layout invalidated those approvals and required new reviews by the governing body. So first, I'm going to give some more background into the request. Then I'll provide a little more detail onto those prior approvals and their site layouts. And then I'll go into our review of the family transfer rebuttable presumptions and evasion criteria before asking some questions to the claimant. Oh, sorry. So this is a more broad view aerial map of the target range area showing the subject property. So the subject property is about 4.7 acres currently and is in the target range community, located south of and adjacent to the Clark Fork River and northeast of the Humble Road and South 7th Street West intersection. Here's a closer view to get a little more detail on the area. The property is zoned CRR1 residential, located within an area also described in the Missoula area land use element, which was an amendment to the 2016 growth policy in 2019. So for the zoning district, 1 dwelling unit per acre is the maximum residential density in that CRR1 district. The growth policy designates this parcel with the rural residential and small agricultural land use, which recommends between 1 and 2 dwelling units per acre. This property is also described in the target range neighborhood plan from 2010, and that has a recommended density of 1 dwelling unit per acre for this property. So this proposal is zoning compliant, and it would not exceed the density recommended by the growth policy and the neighborhood plan. The northern portion of the subject property is within the 100-year floodway with a history of flooding and erosion impacts through recent years. So according to the proposed tract layout and the site plan, the north property boundary has shifted about 110 feet south from the previous boundary. This new boundary is delineated by the high water mark, and the new riverbed is under state ownership due to the gradual erosion of the riverbank. So about 39,900 square feet of the property area have been lost to this erosion. There is an existing well located within the river area due to the erosion, and that well's removal is anticipated through sanitation review in the future. And 2 proposed dwelling units would be about 250 to 300 feet from the designated floodway. So here is the existing property as shown on tract A1 of COS 3601. Note, this says 5.65 acres, but this has since been reduced due to the ongoing erosion. Here is the tract layout that was approved in 2008. So originally there were to be these 2 tracts to the same recipients that are being considered today, and those were in the northeast and northwest corner of the subject property. In 2015, it came back to the commissioners to the layout that's shown on the screen. Note that the parcel for the reclaimant's daughter was relocated from the northwest corner to the southwest corner, and the property on the northeast corner, which was for the son, was sort of elongated to move a little more south than previously shown. So both of these layouts were not recorded and have changed, which is why we are back for another family transfer proposal at this time. So here's an image of the proposed tracts layout, and the proposed transfer, like I said, would result in 3 total tracts. The existing tract, which is 4.72 acres, would remain in ownership by the claimant as tract 1, and that would be reduced to 1.86 acres in the center of the property. The property to be transferred to the claimant's daughter would be 1 acre as tract 2 in the southwest portion, which is the lower left-hand corner. And the property to be transferred to the claimant's son would be 1.86 acres as tract 3 on the east portion of the property, or the right-hand part of the screen. The parent parcel currently has one dwelling unit located on it and multiple accessory structures. The applicant has stated that 2 of the transfer tracts are intended for single-family residential use, and there are 2 proposed home locations shown on the site plan. Each residence would be proposed to be served by individual well, individual septic, and with direct access off of South 7th Street West. The proposed house on tract 3, which would be intended for the sun on the right-hand side of the screen, would be the closest new structure to the high water mark, according to the site plan, at about 230 feet. This application was sent to county agencies for comment. The health department commented that the project will require sanitation review or site inapplicable exemption. The county floodplain administrator recommends that the property owner remove the well from the river channel and obtain the necessary permits to stabilize the bank. And the clerk and recorder office stated they have no comments, and no other departments submitted agency comment. So any request for subdivision exemption, including family transfers, gets reviewed against rebuttable presumptions and for evasion criteria to determine if there is an evasion from subdivision review. This particular proposal triggered 2 criteria each under rebuttable presumptions and evasion criteria. So now I'll read through each of those. So the first rebuttable presumption that this triggered was number 4, which reads as follows. This division appears to be made for the purpose of speculation by the landowner or for resale for the benefit of the landowner by using the grantee as a straw person. This may be indicated if the grantor and or recipient owns other tracts of land in Missoula County, or if it is evident that the receiving family members do not intend to reside on the family transfer tracts. So in our review, we noted that the claimant's son, Randall, did purchase 986 Mason Meadows in 2012 through warranty deed filed under book 905, page 19. And it's not immediately clear in the application if he intends to reside. However, we'll point out that there is no evidence in the exemption that he necessarily does not intend to reside on the property. So this directly is related to one of the questions that gets asked today to the claimant regarding the intended use of the tracts that I'll get to once I'm through these evasion criteria. And I'd also like to note that this evasion criteria is erroneously not listed in the staff report that was uploaded with this item. So if there's any questions on this particular one, I'm happy to take those, but otherwise I've read that into the record at this time. The second rebuttable presumption that was triggered for this applicant was number 8, which reads as follows. The proposed division is on a tract that was previously created through use of a family transfer exemption, mortgage security exemption, or occasional sale exemption, or has received preliminary plat approval. So in our review, staff notes that the property was originally created through an 11.58 acre occasional sale exemption in 1977. In 1984, a mortgage security exemption was recorded to create the 5.65 acre subject property. And that same 5.65 acre tract was conveyed later through an occasional sale exemption in 1988. So now moving on into general evasion criteria, of which there are 2. Number 5 reads as follows. Has the claimant engaged in prior exempt transactions involving the original tract or other tracts? And in staff's review, we note that approval for family transfer was granted in 2008. This was invalidated, as I previously explained, due to the location of one lot intended for Stacy being relocated from the northwest corner to the southwest corner of the parent tract. And although the reconfigured family transfer was approved in 2015, the proposed lot layout has again substantially changed and may not be filed. So this proposal before you today, commissioners, is an effort to receive new governing body approval for the new tracts layout. And the last general evasion criteria I'll explain is listed as number 17 in the staff report, and that reads as follows. Are there existing violations on the property that will be made worse or left unremedied by the proposed division? And that in our review, staff notes that although not stated to CAPS as a violation, the Missoula Valley Water Quality District did email CAPS in May of 2020, indicating that the property owner is the responsible party of an abandoned well in the river channel and an abandoned septic tank about 20 feet from the riverbank. The district also indicated communications with the Natural Resource Conservation Service and their determination that there is not much assistance that could be offered from the local governing body. The claimant's representative did state in an email to CAPS that the abandoned well will be removed through future sanitation review. So unless there are immediate questions that I can take at this time, I do have the questions for family transfer claimants that we can go through at this time as well.
Yeah, please proceed, Matt.
Okay, so could the applicant please state their name for the record?
Jacqueline Thorpe. And Thomas Thorpe is not present. He is very ill.
Okay, thank you. So I have 5 questions. 1, did you buy the property with the intent of dividing it?
No, did not.
Okay, thank you. Question.
Originally.
Okay. The second question is, do you or your transferees intend to transfer the property within the next year?
Well, I would like to finalize this as soon as possible for my children, not for a straw person, as you call it.
Okay. Thank you. Question 3, have you talked to anyone at the county about going through subdivision review?
No.
Okay, thank you. Question 4, will the property be developed?
It will be developed, I guess you would say, because my son and daughter will each get some property. So that would be development. That is the family transfer.
Okay, thank you. And my 5th and final question, will the recipients of the property be residing on the transferred lots?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, that concludes my presentation and questions. I'm also happy to take any additional questions.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks, Mrs. Thorpe. Before we get to questions from the commission, let's go ahead and, this is a public hearing that'll open. Let's go ahead and take some public comment on this proposed family transfer. If anyone is here to comment on it, this is your chance. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any questions from the commission?
Just a minor question. Maybe I missed this. What is happening to the abandoned septic?
Matt or the Thorpes or your representative, would anyone like to field that?
I can answer that for you, Sean at 406. Like Matt had said, this project will have to go through sanitation review, and all of that stuff will be taken care of. The well will be abandoned per state regulations, and the septic tank will be removed per state regulations as well. That's something that the health department will force, as they should. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Josh, I saw your lips moving earlier, but I did not hear anything. Did you have a question?
I think I figured it out. There's an image of a person on my screen who was talking and nothing was coming out. And I thought that person's trying to say something, but they're on mute. But I think maybe they're just doing something else. So.
Oh, so you're not talking rhetorically? That person was not you?
It was not me, no. It was his name is listed there as Dale Bakken.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm not seeing that on my screen, but
it looks like they're in an auto parts shop or something.
is someone out here who's wanting to comment on this who is currently muted? Okay, I guess we'll assume no.
Okay, yeah. Such as it is.
Mr. Bakken, are you out there and would you like to comment on this family transfer? Going once, going twice. Okay, sorry. Any other questions or Matt, would you like to pull up what the motion would be for this?
Sure, in just a moment when my computer cooperates with me again. Should be up now.
Thanks.
There we go. All right, I'm happy to make this motion that the request by Tom and Jacqueline Thorpe to utilize the family transfer exemption MCA 76-3-2071B to create and transfer 2 parcels for their daughter and son, Stacy Blatty and Randall Thorpe, as presented in the subdivision exemption affidavit, be approved.
I'm happy to second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? And my thanks to the applicants and the applicant's representative for bringing before us a fairly straightforward family transfer. Yeah. Always much appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Matt. Thanks to the Thorpes. We'll move on to our second public hearing today, and this is brought to us by way of our natural resource specialist, Kylie Paul. This is the Schmidt Road Milwaukee Trail to Mullen Road Connector Public Trail Easement Open Space Acquisition Project.
That's a mouthful.
That is. Yes. Dave, that sounds like it's right for an acronym.
It is.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I'm Kylie Paul, indeed natural resource specialist for Missoula County's Parks, Trails, and Open Lands program. So I administer in part the open space program for Missoula County. And prior to us talking about the details of this city open space bond project, I wanted to first briefly talk about the background and status of the 2006 open space bond and the process we're involved in here today. And then Grant Carlton, the open space program manager in the city of Missoula's Parks and Rec program, will then talk about the project itself. I want, in case there's folks on here thinking, what the heck, 2006, what about the 2018 open space bond? Well, yes, so we do have a 2018 open space bond, but this project is specifically related to the 2006 one to help move through some of the remaining funds of that open space bond. So in 2006, Missoula County voters did approve a $10 million bond for the purpose of preserving open space in Missoula County, and half of those funds were allocated to the county, half to the city for use, for the city's use primarily in the urban area. And the city currently has a little over $87,000 left in its portion of the 06 bond. And the county currently has a bit over $400,000. So the 2006 open space bond protects lands in order to accomplish at least one of the following: to conserve a working ranch or farm, protect wildlife habitat or water quality, or protect scenic landscapes, provide recreational trails and wildlife corridors, or manage for growth. So the projects typically involve conservation easements on private lands, or acquisition of land for public access, or purchase of trail easements, and so on. And most of the projects that we've seen over time have involved land trusts as partners, and some involve just the public body like the city. And so for the city in its decision-making on its open space projects, the city undergoes their own internal and public processes. And Grant, again, he'll speak to those processes that have been taken for today's project. But this is a county open space bond, and so the county commissioners are engaged in it. And are requested to consider today whether this is a legal project that meets the purposes of the open space bond, and if so, are requested to offer your final approval of expenditure of the bond funds. So after you hear from Grant, commissioners, I understand you'll take questions from the public. You'll probably ask questions, and then you'll make a motion. So commissioners, you've heard about this project a little bit from Grant prior, and here he is to further describe the project for you and the public. So Grant, are you able to join in here and present further?
I am here. Can you hear me and or see me?
We can hear you.
Camera looks like it's working on my end. You can't see me?
We can now.
See you.
You can see me now. All right. Thanks, Kylie. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here, if I may. Just got a brief presentation here. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yep.
And I was told that PDF is better than PowerPoint, so that's why you're seeing a PDF, like Kylie. So again, thanks for having me. Thanks, Kylie, for the introduction. Again, I'm here to talk about the Schmidt Road public trail easement acquisition. As Kylie mentioned, just trying to move through this. I just wanted to provide a quick project overview. We are requesting $25,000 from the 2006 open space bond. Again, not the 2018 open space bond. And just to be clear, this is a city project, as Kylie mentioned. And this is for the purchase of a perpetual public trail easement across what we're calling the Schmidt Road property. It is owned by the Fox family. This trail project will provide a critical connection between the Milwaukee Trail and the Mullen Road and Mullen Trail, and it extends the highly used Milwaukee Trail by nearly half a mile. And obviously the vision entails in the future paving this portion of the trail, much like the current developed Milwaukee Trail is, as a shared use path. Kylie kind of touched on where we are in the county process. I wanted to provide a quick roadmap of where we have come from in the city process. So back in September of last year, the city's Open Space Advisory Committee, OSAC, voted to recommend approval by council of this project and expenditure. Back in November, on November 9th, the city council held a public hearing, and on November 23rd, council voted to approve the requested expenditure of $25,000 of the city's share of the 2006 open space bond. And so now we are seeking the county commission's final approval, as Kylie mentioned. Here you can see a quick property overview highlight section as well as a map. So the subject Schmidt Road property, if you can see my cursor, is highlighted in yellow here. It's about 8.5 acres. And just to provide some sort of visual context, the hashed red line here that you see is the undeveloped portion of the Milwaukee Trail corridor. And down here is, in the solid red, is the currently developed portion of the Milwaukee Trail, which leads into and beyond downtown Missoula. So as you can see, the current terminus of the developed portion of the Milwaukee Trail is right at Grove Street here. This larger artery here is Reserve Street. So again, we're talking about this yellow portion here. It's currently for sale, which is something I wanted to address. Throughout the city's process, we got the very valid question of why are we pursuing this project here when we haven't yet built a bridge across the Clark Fork or paved and developed some of these portions here. And the answer is that simply we have a willing and capable landowner. As you guys know, the Mullen area is expected to experience exponential growth in the coming years. There's an extensive planning effort underway, and so basically we're going to see increased property values, properties changing hands, and these types of projects are going to become increasingly difficult to come by. So we wanted to capitalize on it while we had the opportunity. I'll talk a little bit more about sort of the context of ownership and other easements in this area on the next slide in just a moment. But again, this property is bisected by the Milwaukee Trail. And one thing I wanted to touch on as well, the Milwaukee Trail, the actual proper corridor extends past this subject parcel here, if you can see my cursor. The reason why we're not going that route is because there is a house built smack dab in the middle of it, pretty close to Mullen. So that's why we're jogging up and connecting to Mullen here. We will hopefully pursue the actual path further west. And as you can see, again, it extends to Mullen Road. It is adjacent to a currently held city easement, which is here on property owned by Knife River JTL Group. I'll talk again a little bit more about that in just a moment. And then it helps, obviously connects users to the open space along the Clark Fork River. This is the Tower Street Conservation Area, which is currently owned and managed by the city. We own everything that's sort of unshaded, I guess, if you will, here. This is what we're calling the Clark Fork Islands area. Back in July of 2020, the City Parks Board adopted a master recreation and management plan for this area. So there's additional trail development that will probably commence this year and into next year. There's some really cool birding loops, some pet only, and some multi-use paths planned for this area. So as the Mullen area grows and we see some development in that area, it's one more connection to the river corridor and then into the urban core for connection to businesses, services, other neighborhoods, and downtown Missoula. And I quickly wanted to highlight just the importance of the Milwaukee Trail. It's one of two what I would call primary shared use commuter corridors in Missoula, along with the Bitterroot Trail. So it's extremely important for moving users around Missoula in a non-motorized, sustainable way, along with the Bitterroot Trail and connecting to the existing other county and city open space. Here's a sort of zoomed out context map. And I just wanted to briefly touch on the area, and I can go back up to the other map if it's better for people to see. But between the sort of the terminus here at Grove Street near Reserve Street and Mullen Road, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ownerships. And so this portion here is, I'm gonna zoom back up here in just a moment. You can see the Milwaukee Trail here in the solid red that connects down into Missoula and, along the river as the Kim Williams Trail. But zooming back in, so this right here is the Colon Ditch property, which the city acquired back in 2016. That is the natural extension of the Milwaukee Trail. We plan to develop that very soon. Obviously, we need to build a bridge across the Clark Fork River. We have submitted bids for that and received and retained an engineering firm to design plans for that. It's obviously going to be a very expensive undertaking, but we think that we can find the funds, and we think it's a viable route for the path. We've got an easement here. If you can see my cursor, this property again is owned by Knife River. There's another stretch of Knife River here that we do not have an easement across that I will be pursuing in 2021. And then once we connect basically everything on this side of the river to Mullen Road, we have a conditional easement here that will engage, and it will be triggered and basically be secured at that point. So once we connect everything from the north shore of the Clark Fork River to Mullen Road, this easement then becomes active. So all we need to do is fill in the gap here by acquiring an easement from Knife River or acquiring this land in fee. So again, we're experiencing tremendous momentum in this area, and we're hoping to continue that westward. And I know that the county has invested pretty significantly in the Mullen Trail, which obviously this is a pretty critical piece that connects the Mullen Trail again over to the Milwaukee Trail and into town. I just wanted to highlight, so the Milwaukee Trail, again, is prioritized in many city planning efforts, including the open space plan, the long range transportation plan, the master parks plan, the active transportation plan, and the city growth policy. So essentially all of our sort of related planning efforts prioritize the extension of sustainable commuter trails like the Milwaukee Trail or the Bitterroot Trail, and this simply builds on that goal. And as Kylie mentioned, sort of part of your task here today is to ensure that this project is an eligible and appropriate and legal use of 2006 open space bond funds. And again, I just wanted to highlight that this project does further the goal of that bond directly by providing recreational and commuter trails and managing growth. And again, we're asking for a purchase of an easement. And the 2006 open space bond does provide for paying related transaction costs, which we're also asking for. And I'll talk about the budget in just a moment. Actually, right now. It's a pretty simple budget. So to break it down, we've just got 2 line items. Again, we're asking for $25,000 in total, $15,000 of which will be for the actual purchase of the trail easement. And then an additional up to $10,000 for transaction costs. So I say up to because these costs are sort of estimated at this time. I think that they could come in a bit lower, but they will not be above $10,000. So again, a total of $25,000 is what we're requesting. And at that point, I think I'm done and I will take questions.
All right. Thanks, Grant. Thanks, Kylie. Why don't you guys just hang out there for a second and I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this? Vicki Watson has her hand up. Vicki.
Hi, I'm very excited to see this connection made through there along the Hiawatha Road out to all that proposed new development in the Mullen area. And I just wondered if you had asked the folks that live in that house there that's preventing you from being able to continue on up the Hiawatha Road all the way to Mullen Road, if there might be a little short jog around that homestead, if you will, because it would be nice to not have to ride bikes along Mullen Road so far. So if you can zoom in on that, I just was noticing that it's just a really little short jog around there might make it possible to cut off.
Thanks, Vicki. Grant, do you have any insight in terms of the complexity of snaking a trail around the existing dwelling unit there?
I believe that my predecessor reached out to that homeowner or that property owner, and I don't believe we got a response back. I think I'm still sharing my screen. I'm trying to zoom in a little bit just to show you just how sort of clustered the development is there at the connection. I don't know if I can't see it, so I'm assuming you guys can't see it very clearly. Yeah, so tell me if you guys can't see this, but there are 5 at least dwelling units right here. I believe the houses are outbuildings. There really isn't a viable way to route, what we need, which is at least probably 20 feet for a trail like this through this. I just don't. I have, thought about reaching out to this landowner again. My past experience tells me that people don't like trails coming that close to their homes. So yeah, I think that that's sort of in a nutshell my response to that. I haven't completely given up on it, but it just seems like this is a more viable option here. And I will say, just for context, I think this stretch basically where Schmidt Road hits Mullen Road and to where it picks back up at the Milwaukee Trail is I would say less than a half mile. So it's not a huge amount of Mullen Road. I do understand that the user experience would be more enjoyable if we continued along the Mullen Trail proper.
Thanks, Grant. And thanks, Vicki, for the question. I think the moral to this story is never let railroad right-of-way slip away because it's difficult to put the pieces back together again after the fact.
And expensive.
and very expensive. Other public comment? Okay, I will close the public hearing. Questions from the commission or discussion?
Yeah, I have one, Dave.
Yeah.
So this would be a question for Grant. This is a super modest budget and a big bang for the buck, and I'm supportive. I think more for the public. Could you describe what those transaction costs are? I think people understand acquisition costs. We got to buy this space. What are transaction costs, and why are they so expensive relative to the cost of buying the property?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the primary transaction costs will be a survey. So we want to survey that area and sort of decide where the best place for the actual trail is on the ground. And that, I think, those can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 depending on the complexity. I think this one will probably be fairly simple. And then I think we've talked a bit about some legal costs that we anticipate. There are other easements on that road. And so I think, again, deciding on, when we want to engage sort of outside counsel, we're working with a landowner on this. So part of that will be dictated by, sort of what's actually on the ground. It's a pretty clean corridor as far as the road goes itself. But again, there are several easements, not several, there are a few easements that access properties down along the river. And we wanted to make sure that we don't infringe upon those while also picking the best path for the trail itself. And then other than that, I think just we've sort of budgeted here for some minimal engineering type schematics or plans related to that, related to the actual construction that will happen at some point in the future.
Thank you. Other questions, Josh or Juanita?
Nope. I'm glad you asked that, Josh, so that Grant could go through what transaction costs mean. And yeah, the details. So thanks.
Grant or Kylie, could you queue up on the screen our motion for this?
I can. I will, I think in doing so, kick off Grant. I think that'll work.
Okay. That's a whole paragraph.
I know. This is the specific.
Okay.
Especially.
I move that the board concur with City Council's approval of the Schmidt Road Milwaukee Trail to Mullen Road Connector Public Trail Easement Open Space Acquisition Project and approve the expenditure of up to $25,000 of the city's portion of the 2006 open space bond. This will purchase a perpetual public trail easement across the Schmidt Road property that will provide a critical connection between the Milwaukee Trail Corridor and Mullen Road, as well as a future publicly accessible commuter and recreational trail, and pay transaction and project related costs associated with the acquisition.
I second that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right.
We're looking forward to a catchy acronym.
Yeah. It needs a cool acronym.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Kylie.
guys.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. All right, our third public hearing is a resolution outlining the need for safety while operating all-terrain vehicles. This is a reminder for folks the way this will work. We'll begin with a staff report, followed by an opportunity for public comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and then I'll close the public hearing, and the commissioners will have an opportunity for discussion and asking of questions. And I will, when we do have public comment, again, please raise your hand if you're online using the internet connection, and I will call on you in order. If you're calling on the phone after we get through all of the folks who want to comment online, I will, I think the most expeditious way to do it is I'll just read off the last four digits of your phone number. If you want to comment, unmute yourself and comment at that time. If I hear silence, I will move on to the next phone number. So with that, Chris Lonsberry, our Chief Administrative Officer for Missoula County, would you like to introduce this?
Certainly. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm bringing a resolution today before you. It's entitled "A Resolution to Encourage and Promote the Safe Use of All-Terrain Vehicles, Especially by Children." This resolution, as you know, comes to you at the request of the Montana Association of Counties, and it has its beginnings in the unfortunate and tragic loss of a young lady in eastern Montana that was the granddaughter of a county commissioner. So Missoula County is considering this resolution today. I want to make sure that folks know that this resolution does not change, modify, or create any existing laws in place related to the operation of ATVs. But like many of your resolutions, it simply seeks to call attention to the need for safe operations or to call out a specific thing that you believe should be brought to the public's attention. You have received a fair amount of public comment electronically for this in advance of your public meeting today. About 50 to 75 individuals sent comments, and they were primarily focused on concern around creating some new or changing existing regulations, 90%. Which
and could everyone please mute themselves? We're getting some feedback if you're unmuted. Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. So this resolution will not make any changes to that. So we have responded to those comments to let folks know about the fact that this does not change any existing law, but I did want to bring those to your attention today. And so, as you know, if this were a change to existing law, it would not be titled as a resolution, or if it was titled as a resolution, it would also have the word ordinance in it, which is the method by which you must create or change a law in Missoula County as set forth by the state. So I'll give a brief excerpt from the letter from the Richland County commissioners in support of this. Of course, you know that this is the eastern Montana county that I'm talking about, where they had the tragic accident that resulted in the death of one of the commissioner's granddaughters. And then I will read just the concluding piece of the resolution, which is the piece that calls people's attention to the need for the safe operation. And then I'll ask Steve Schmidt, who's our Buckle Up coordinator, to speak just a little bit about both ATV safety and vehicle safety. And I believe Captain Bill Burt is with us as well if people have questions. So with that, and your permission, I will share my screen here so that you can see the letter from the Richland County Commissioners and then the resolution when it's time for that as well. And so the Richland County Commissioners wrote to you and they start off, "Dear Commissioners Slotnick, Bureau, and Strohmeyer, thank you for placing the proposed resolution to encourage and promote the safe use of all-terrain vehicles, especially by children, on your agenda today. We note that you've had some public comment in opposition to this resolution based on a sentiment that we also share very strongly here in eastern Montana. We don't like being told what to do. Truly, we don't like being told what to do, and that is precisely why we support this resolution. This resolution favors not being told what to do in two ways. First, it's an educational resolution calling for voluntary safety practices when using ATVs instead of an ordinance which would have the force of law and that would mandate behavior and possibly even impose sanctions for violations. Second, concerned that if injuries and deaths from unsafe use of ATVs, especially by children, are not brought sufficiently under control by education and voluntary safety practices, the demand for safety could take this out of voluntary hands and throw it into mandatory legislation. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for just a second to switch, because I don't believe it will change, to the resolution itself so that we can look at that language that is specifically about calling to that. So bottom of the resolution, the part that always comes after the now therefore is what we're looking at doing today. Everything that's in the whereas kind of sets the history of why we're doing something. And so this resolution says, now therefore it is hereby resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Missoula County, State of Montana, dated today's date, one, that Missoula County encourages and promotes the safe use of all-terrain vehicles, especially by children. And two, that Missoula County endorses the following rules of the trail to make safety a part of planning for every ride and helps reduce ATV-related deaths and injuries. I want to highlight that it endorses the following rules that already exist. It is not making new rules, and these rules that it refers to are rules of the trail, which is just a safety guidance document. It again does not have the force of law, so it's not imposing any things. It's just a safety practice that's endorsed. So it says, do not drive ATVs on paved roads except where to cross and when done safely and permitted by law. Ride an ATV that's right for your age. What happened, unfortunately, with the commissioner's granddaughter was that they were on an oversized ATV, and so do not allow children under the age of 16 to ride an adult ATV. Supervise riders younger than 16. Don't carry passengers on a single ride ATV, and never carry more passengers than an ATV is designed for. Always wear Department of Transportation or DOT compliant helmets. Take hands-on safety training courses, never ride under the influence of alcohol and drugs, and ride only on designated trails and at safe speeds. So this resolution, again, is just calling this attention or this issue to the attention of the public and promoting safety in Missoula County. It doesn't create any change in law or existing statute that governs the use of ATVs. And with that, I would ask Steve Schmidt, our Buckle Up coordinator, to give you some information from his program, and then we can turn it over for public comment, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Oh, good afternoon, commissioners.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. From the Drive Safe Missoula or the Buckle Up Montana standpoint, one of the things that we really try to emphasize is the Vision Zero that Montana has on our roadways, with 0 serious injuries and 0 deaths on our roadways. Some of the ways that we could accomplish that obviously is training through riding courses and ongoing continuous training while you're riding ATVs. Acquire and use personal protective equipment, which is a key element specifically with motorcycle riders. There's a term called ATGAT, which is all the gear all the time. It's highly encouraged, just like you would want to wear your seatbelt to give yourself the greatest opportunity to survive a crash. Wearing all the gear gives you the greatest opportunity to avoid those serious injuries or death. That's including helmet, armored gloves, jackets, pants, and boots. And then, of course, as part of Drive Safe Missoula, I'm also the coordinator for the DUI task force, making sure that people always ride or drive sober, free from distractions as well. So distracted driving is a key element, even when it comes riding either ATVs, motorcycles, or off-road vehicles. That's pretty much what I have to offer. Is that we just support the safety aspect of this and encourage people to be as safe as possible and always ride in control.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Chris, for the introduction. Like I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and open this up for public comment. And yeah, Josh, go ahead.
Can I say one really brief thing before public comment? It just may save us a bit of time because we have other stuff going on. Before people do public comment, I just wanted to really clearly and explicitly reiterate what Chris said. This is a resolution to encourage people to take voluntary safety measures. So if folks had joined us today to express their distaste in being told what to do around safety measures, this is not it, and you don't need to. You don't have to speak to that. This resolution would not affect anybody's ability to legally or not legally ride an ATV in the way they choose according to Montana law as it is now. This just encourages voluntary safety. So if you're here today to speak one way or the other about being told what to do, you don't need to do that. Just before we have 55 people line up to say, don't tell me how to ride my ATV. So given that we had other stuff to do before the end of the day. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. One of the things that we can do in the positions that we hold as your public servants is to try to emphasize and encourage certain activities, certain behaviors, and this is non-regulatory, but being safe anywhere and everywhere is always encouraged, and I think that's what this resolution is certainly intending to do. So with that, if you're online and would like to comment, please use the raise hand function and I will call on you. If you're having trouble doing so and have your camera on, you can physically wave at me and I will call you that way too. And then we'll get to the phone callers. Yes, Jeff Micklitz. And if you'd like to unmute yourself, you look like you're muted. There we go.
All right, so thank you for having this meeting today and opening up for public comment. And I appreciate what you guys are trying to do. My concern is that this becomes a stepping stone. Once you approve the resolution, it'll be in as part of the record that says that you're already in support of these regulations and things that you're adhering to. So once that's done, someone in the future can say, oh, look, the county board's already in favor of these regulations. And up here in Seeley Lake, we use ATVs as a secondary vehicle. We use them to go to church. We use them to go to grocery stores. We use them to go to errands and family friends and hunting and a whole bunch of things that require the use over roads. And so if the true issue is what you're trying to accomplish is the safety of those riding, especially children, I believe the resolution should be worded in a way that highlights that point and that point only. So safety gear for those under the age of 18, or for training courses for those under the age of 18. But as far as the other regulations that you're suggesting in there, I think they need to go, and so that they don't become a portal to use against the legal use of ATVs in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Micklitz. We have a Patrick on the line.
Yeah, I had a few questions here. So I guess my first question is, you guys are aware that federal law already prevents them from riding it under the age of 16. State law already prevents them from riding it under the age of 16. And the dealer isn't allowed to sell to a person who's going to let their child ride a machine that doesn't fit those categories. Correct?
Yes, this is in recognition that we are not adding any new regulations. We're just emphasizing existing ones.
Seems kind of redundant.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
I'm not done yet.
Okay, go ahead.
Riding only on designated trails. Were you guys around for Maggie Pittman?
Go ahead with your comment, Patrick.
Were you guys around for Maggie Pittman?
No, this is a time for you to offer your comments. So elaborate.
Maggie Pittman shut down most of the trails in Missoula. She shut down mountain biking. She shut down dirt biking. She shut down ATV riding. And this is how it started. It started with, we need to open a few more trails for people who ride horses. And then all of a sudden, there's no more trails. There's nowhere to mountain bike in Missoula anymore. There's, 3 places to ride a dirt bike, maybe 2 places to ride ATVs. So when we put things like this before people, everybody's going to be kind of upset, because this is the kind of stuff that leads to us not having any more trails.
Okay.
I mean, how many kids have died, and we're going to do it because some other council member's kid died? It's a little disingenuous.
Thank you for your comments. Roger Toolberg.
Hi, my name's Roger Toolberg. I'm the president of Western Montana Trail Riders here in Missoula. And we're all about safety and everything. And I agree with what Jeff was saying and Patrick about, especially the paved road thing. We're not going to quit riding on paved roads. I think time would be better spent from the council, maybe working with the ATV dealers and clubs like the one that I have, Western Montana Trail Riders, to promote safety in some way. That's the way it's going to happen. A resolution like this is great. It's okay, I think, but I too don't want to see it lead down another path. But working with the dealers and the ATV clubs is the way to promote safety, because that's where the people are that are going to be buying and using the machines.
Thank you, Mr. Toolberg. Additional comment from folks online, and then we'll go to the phone callers. Mr. Dale Bakken. Go ahead, Mr. Bakken. You appear unmuted, but I can't hear you. Well, hang on, Dale. I don't know what the problem is there. Maybe we can try again in a second. Any other folks online who would like to comment? Okay, let's skip ahead then to the phone callers. I will call out the last 4 digits of your phone number. Again, if you want to comment, then please unmute yourself and do so. If I don't hear anything from you, I'll assume that you're not wanting to comment. So I have a caller with last four digits, 4036.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. If you could state your name for the record, that would be great.
This is Curtis Breedy from Seeley Lake, Curtis Polaris. I've been a dealer for 30 years in the Missoula County area, and everything that you guys are talking about, I have been doing and working with the Product Safety Commission, with the customers, with the state of Montana, with the manufacturers, and the whole works. And all this stuff is repetitive stuff that we have to deal with before we can ever sell them anyway. And we used to have classes that we taught people and showed them writing skills and did all kinds of things. And the customers pretty much made it loud and clear that they were tired of being told that they had to go take a class all the time to purchase an ATV or a side-by-side or anything else. And in this, it doesn't really explain the differences between an ATV and a UTV. I'm saddened to see that they're taking and putting a bunch of stuff out here that I agree with what the last person said. Everything starts here and then it starts going more and more and more. There's a ton of people. We have 0 trails in Seeley Lake to go ride on ATVs or side-by-sides. So we have to ride on county roads. We have to ride on asphalt roads. We have to ride on Forest Service and state roads. And that's where people use them to do their thing. It's a part of everyday life here. And I'm just afraid, and I want to make sure that you guys understand, I'm very afraid that this is the start of something that could theoretically go bad for us. And I'm upset to the fact that you guys want to do this stuff, but you didn't get a hold of the dealers, or you didn't follow through with all the stuff that the Product Safety Commission and et cetera already state that we have to do. So a lot of this is repetitive, and I'm not saying that safety isn't a good thing. It's a fantastic thing. We preach it every time we sell, but this, I think, is going a little bit too far, and I'm not sure exactly where you guys are heading with it. You say one thing, but I don't think that's exactly where it's going. So I'm done now.
Thank you, Curtis. Our next caller is 5098. Would you like to comment on this? Okay, we'll move on to 5341. Caller 5341, did you want to comment?
Yes, if you can hear me.
Yes,
my name is Nathan Bertland. I'm president of Big Sky Motorsports. Similar comments to Kurt. Safety is obviously an extremely important thing. There was the Safety Commission handles that through the manufacturers. It's beaten into us. It's hang tags hanging on every single vehicle. So we take it very seriously. We get spot checked from the manufacturers. If you don't adhere to the age recommendations, you can lose your franchise over it. So we clearly take it very seriously, and it's very important to us. That being said, I just wanted to go on record stating that I agree wholeheartedly with what Kurt was saying, that we're happy to work with the county in the way of promoting and re-energizing and making sure everybody is aware that safety is paramount. But at the same time, if this is what people are doing day to day, this is something that we deal with day to day, and this being a reminder. Motorcyclists and side-by-side users across America are always on edge because land has continued to be taken away from them for public use and trails being used. So it's a very hot button with anybody that's involved in the sport of side-by-sides, motorcycles, dirt bikes. So we take it real seriously, and we want to make sure that this is not a stepping stone, not a gateway to us losing any more of what few trails we have left. So I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you. Next caller is 2783. Okay, moving on. 9341. How about 4664? And it looks like you're unmuted, 4664.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Adam Leiter of about 9 Mile. Been riding in the county for 20 years, been getting street legal quads and side-by-sides for 20 years. We do a lot of riding in 9 Mile, the same way they do in Sealy, to go places to get things done. When we all buy a bike or a ATV or a UTV side-by-side, we all have to go down to the county and sign a piece of paper that says that we've done the hundreds of dollars of modifications on our rig to be able to get the plate and to be street legal. And I'm just want to acknowledge the same worry that other people said on the phone here, that this resolution is just the first step towards something else down the line about cutting off the use of ATVs on quote unquote ATV designated trails, of which, where are they in the county? Number one. Number two, if we've all gone out and spent hundreds of dollars to meet the state and the county DMV requirements to make our rigs, our bikes, our ATVs, our side-by-side street legal, then what happens to all that money and all those plates and all that work that's gone into making street legal if you guys are going down the road of making it illegal someday? So I know you can't answer that now, but I just want to go on the record of putting that on the record. People have spent a lot of time and a lot of money to make the vehicles street legal per the state and the county requirements. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Adam. The next caller is 2520. How about 2606? And you are unmuted, 2606, if you want to comment on this. Okay, we will go back up to, is there anyone who has not commented who would like to do so? We have a Shanna. Shanna, do you want to? There you go.
Hello. Yeah, actually, Shannon was running the computer, but this is Mark Tomey with Five Valley Honda Yamaha in Missoula.
Okay.
And definitely wanted to register our comments. What a lot of other folks said have been very spot on, and a lot of what we have just kind of backs that up. But kind of the top of the list points that we wanted to register as well is that ATVs in Montana are already written into the state vehicle code when they're converted to street legal for street use. Municipalities are prohibited, as far as we understand, from passing or enforcing differently or more strictly than the state code, vehicle codes. Beyond that, once plated, ATVs are legally a motor vehicle and subject to the rules of the road, including Montana's traffic laws and enforcement. So, to add on top of what's already there for the state enforcement, to us doesn't make a lot of sense. Another point that we want to make, which again other people have voiced very well as well, is that every item that is proposed on the county proposal is already codified on every new ATV sold in the United States with safety stickers that are required to be there from the manufacturers. And those safety precautions that are listed are also explained to purchasers of every new ATV before they go out the door. some of the age requirements that go along with the sales of the ATVs, the manufacturers are extremely strict on. We're not allowed to sell ATVs to that if the buyer says that, oh, my kid is 8 years old and he wants to ride this, if it's not a machine that is for that age group, we can lose our dealership. We can lose our franchise. The rules are already there and they're very strictly enforced. Honda, for example, actually has the equivalent of secret shoppers that go around and kind of test the dealers to make sure that they're not violating that. It's a major deal on the part of the manufacturers and the dealers to adhere to those rules. And all that scenario is required through federal regulations through the Consumer Product Safety Commission. And even the document that you guys have for this proposal are all taken, it looks like just about verbatim from the CPSC federal consent decree. So I'm not sure if we're breaking any new ground here, but this is already well set. And I'm not sure about what the need is there for the county to do above and beyond that. So that's our comments.
Thank you. Has anyone not commented who wants to comment? Okay, I will close the public hearing and open it up to questions and discussion from the commission. Josh or Juanita, do you have any?
Sure, I'll just start, and I think Juan have something to say too. And I really appreciate all these folks taking time out of their day to reach out to us, and wanted to reiterate that we got this resolution encouraging voluntary safety from Richland County. Want to also really clearly state that, at least I've been on this commission for just about 2 years, we have not had one single conversation about ATVs, trails, land use, anything to do with regulating where ATVs go or trails are. And I have heard no desire to take that up. I appreciate the nervousness because this is really near and dear to people's hearts, and I get that. This has nothing to do with that. We basically thought we would pass along something that came to us out of a tragedy in Richland County and ask people to voluntarily follow safety measures. This wasn't aimed at retailers or dealers, but aimed at end users to encourage people to be safe with no, I heard the word disingenuous, kind of bugged me a little bit. There is no ulterior motive here. We've had no other discussions. This is only about voluntarily encouraging people to be safe. And it's a bummer that has inspired such anger. I wonder if we could take a look at this resolution one more time. Maybe there might be a bullet in there that has some especially spicy language that has bothered people. We might be able to alter or strike. Is that possible, Chris?
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. I was wondering sorry, Dave.
Well, I was going to say the options before us today are we could either do what you're suggesting today, Josh, or take some more time to look over the text of the resolution. If it was an easy fix, we could certainly do it on the fly here today. But there's nothing time sensitive about this. And if we felt like we needed some extra time, we could hold this.
Because I felt like folks were pretty concerned about that first bullet under number 2, if I'm understanding the comments correctly. And I didn't know if Steve Schmidt might have some thoughts on this as well. If that bullet is removed, how does that make people feel?
So
Chris, could you pull up the screen again?
Absolutely, and I do have one other suggestion that might be acceptable as well that I'm sure, but I'm happy to pull up. Here's the section that's the bottom piece that would be the now therefore section, if that's what you were looking for, Dave.
Yeah, and why don't you go ahead and get your other suggestion on the table, Chris?
So I will say that, MACO's intention with this and Richland County's request.
Well, can people hear Chris? You sound really faint.
Really faint.
I'm sorry. I'll try and speak up. Better. Okay. I say Richland County's request and MACO's request around this really was an opportunity for the commissions across the state of Montana to use their bully pulpit, their ability to be in front of the public and to raise public issues and public awareness around this, which I would say arguably has been accomplished. So one option may potentially be for the commission not to adopt it, having recognized that you have really raised that public awareness. We have certainly gotten some great feedback and comments around this, and the resolution does not carry the force of law, and I would argue has been brought to the public's attention. That may be another potential solution if you choose not to adopt it, as again, the goal was to bring this issue to the front of the public's mind. So
good point.
I'm happy to go to whatever section you would like. If people are concerned about that idea of it somehow leading to some future consequence.
I guess I have a question for Steve, if you're out there still, Steve.
Yes, sir.
So could you talk just a little bit about, and I concur wholeheartedly with my colleagues, this not only are counties in the state of Montana likely precluded from adopting any regulations that are stronger than what are already out there in state or federal law, but the intent is to try to encourage safe use of certain types of motor vehicles here. And to what extent have you had coordination with or worked with the ATV ORV community on safety, like what's being proposed or suggested in this resolution?
Yeah, that's a great question. Being fairly new in my position, I have not had any opportunity, and most of my funding for my position is geared strictly for seatbelt awareness, child safety seats, and DUI prevention, which typically doesn't revolve around ATVs. Although being a rider myself, I liken all the gear all the time to wearing a seatbelt. It's just the safest way to go. I work routinely and have somebody from the Missoula Police Department who is a motorcycle sergeant on both of my coalitions. And we do try to put out information and have a blog that's scheduled to go out once riding season comes out to be, more in line with motorcycle safety, primarily on roadways. But I would absolutely love to work with local dealerships and clubs to get more information out just about being safe. And it sounds to me like they're doing a lot of that already. So of course, I appreciate that. And any way I can help get that information out and help maybe promote their work, I would be all for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my whole point is that there are, whether it's related to seat belts or DUI and driving under the influence, there are already all sorts of laws out there that we do a whole lot of public information and education on, knowing full well that these things are already regulated. But I think we're all fully aware that not everyone is either cognizant of the regulations that are on the books, or that maybe people need a reminder once in a while. So if there's an opportunity for you to reach out to many of the constituents and industry groups on the line here today, I think that would be advisable. And in that spirit, we could contemplate, and again, I mentioned this earlier, not necessarily adopting this today, but maybe there's another mechanism that we could use to get the same message out, because again, this is a non-regulatory thing that we are contemplating today, and there might be other non-regulatory tools to convey the same message that would have less incite less fear and trepidation on people's parts, even though I think this is not a slippery slope that we're on. Josh or Juanita?
So Steve, do you have it within your work plan, and could you, without seeking the thumbs up from higher authority, basically make a pledge to meet with some of these folks, the user groups, some of the industry people, and have these safety conversations? I think if those conversations could be had, we could, as Chris pointed out, really achieve the goals of this toothless resolution, which is straight up to encourage safety. And as some of the folks on the line said, that would be better done by people from the health department having a conversation with dealers, then let's do that and shelve this resolution. And I really want to reiterate what Dave was saying. This is absolutely not a slippery slope. There have been no conversations about land use, trail openings, trail closures, anything like that. And this has zero to do with that. We've had no discussions about anything like that. And maybe we could, by shelving this resolution, and if you could, within your work plan and by the okay of your superiors, commit to meeting with some of these folks on the line, then we could achieve the goals that this resolution had sort of set out for itself.
Yeah, I think we could probably get that done, and something I would be very excited about doing with the programs, as long as it meets the funding requirements or what I'm bound by my funding sources. Absolutely, I would love to meet with everybody and help promote safety as much as possible. I just don't. I don't want to go to another funeral. And as a former law enforcement officer, I hate pulling bodies out of cars, or knocking on doors telling someone that their young one's not coming home. If I can, help save a life, that's what I'm here for. So.
Great. I think, yes, I agree with Josh and Dave, and if we could have kind of honest communication with the ATV community about what would be meaningful to promote safety. That sounds better than, like we are said, a toothless resolution that is just inciting a lot of fear and anger.
Yeah.
So yeah, that all sounds good. And for members of the public who joined us today, we absolutely appreciate your input, and you have been heard. Our goal is to do what we can to support all of you in what you're, particularly the industry, the good work that you're doing safety-wise already. How can we as Missoula County amplify the messages that you're already delivering? And if it's not a resolution, or if it's a modified resolution, we're just looking for the best mechanism and means to deliver that message. So Chris, or perhaps John Hart, if you're on the line, from a procedural standpoint, to take the action that I think we're contemplating here, do we need to table today's item that is before us to bring some resolution to it, so to speak? Chris? Or John?
As I say, I see John's on, but that would be my recommendation. I think tabling it would be the appropriate motion.
I would suggest tabling it unless you think that there is, you would never consider this resolution again, or a resolution that you would consider would be so significantly different that, you wouldn't bring this iteration back.
Right.
What I wonder is if Mr. Schmidt could meet with some of the industry folks and the dealers and see if there's something they could all come up with that they liked, and then we could look at that.
Yeah.
John, what do you think about that? So essentially, we would just take no action today, would hang out there. If it looks like there could be a meeting of the minds to modify or amend the current resolution, then we would schedule it for a second or a continued public hearing. If not, we would still schedule it at some point and just table it at that juncture.
That sounds fine, or you could choose to just never take it up again.
Okay.
I'm going to make the motion to table it, and that the work continues to figure out some meaningful safety action.
Is that what you were suggesting, John, or just not making any motion today whatsoever?
Oh no, you can make that motion. That's just fine.
Okay.
Great. I would second that motion and strongly encourage Mr. Schmidt and the ATV community to meet up and have a productive conversation on how we all work together to further our jointly held safety goals.
Thanks. Any further discussion on the motion to table? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks.
I hope you're able to do that, Steve. Okay.
I hope so too. I'm pretty sure we can make it work.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we will move on to our fourth and final public hearing today. This is on the Sutupcane Neighborhoods Master Plan and Form-Based Code. This has been a long time in the works, and to kick it off is Andrew Hagemeyer with our Community Planning Services Department.
Yeah, afternoon. I'm Andrew Hagemeyer. I'm a senior planner with Missoula County Community Planning Services. And with me on the line today, we've also got Tom Zavitz. He's a senior planner with the City of Missoula. This is a joint city-county project, and Tom was the co-project manager with me for the city. And in addition to Tom, we have Rob Piatowski. Rob is with Dover Cole and Partners. They're the primary consultant on this project. With Dover Cole, they had IMEG, which is a local engineering firm here in Missoula, who worked on stormwater, and Jacobs Engineering, who was an engineering firm here out of Missoula as well, that worked on our they worked on traffic modeling for us. So with that, I'm gonna start up a presentation for you here. See if I can pick the right one. There we go. So this project was the Mullen Area Neighborhoods Master Planning Project, and we are now calling it the Sutupcane Neighborhoods Master Planning Project. We like to thank the Salish Kootenai tribes for their support and consultation in the plan name. The Sutupcane name, this is the Salish name for this location of the Missoula Valley, Sutupcane. It means a place where something is cut off and comes to a point. And it's in reference to the stand of cottonwood trees south of the planning area, just south of the planning area that line the Clark Fork River. So for today's hearing, what we're looking at is 3 resolutions. We're going to do it perhaps the recommended way is within one motion. We'll have a resolution to adopt the plan. This is a resolution of intent to adopt the plan, a resolution of intent to adopt the zoning code, and a resolution of intent to amend the Missoula County zoning map. All right, so the planning process, we started in a year ago with a bunch of background information, doing a bunch of background work, and had a public charrette in March of 2020. The first draft of the plan was released in July of 2020. We held a series of public workshops and open houses. The open houses were in person at the end of July. And then we have had no less than this would be the 5th public hearing on the draft as it has evolved through the process. That's 6 months of public input on the draft Mullen area, or the Sutupcane area master plan and form-based code. So what we're really looking at here is you know, the neighborhood master plan. It's if you were looking for it online, you were looking for the December 10th version of the draft. That's the most up-to-date version of the draft and of the plan and code. So the September or the December 10th version is what you're looking for if you're looking online. Today's motion, it's 3-part motion. First part is related to growth policy statutes. Second part is for the zoning code, and third part is for the zoning map amendment. I will put this back up when it is time to make motions, if this is the way we're going to go, and that will help the commissioners make the motion. I'm going to kind of walk through the motion though real quick for you all. So the first part of the motion, step 1, is related to growth policy statutes. As the neighborhood plan, the master plan is an amendment to our county growth policy through the growth policy statutes. So there's 3 parts to that. The first part is to adopt the plan. And we are asking to adopt the master plan, the Swift-Tupkane area master plan, as an area plan of the Missoula County growth policy. This is under the growth policy statutes. It's the growth policy statutes. It's called a neighborhood plan. As we sometimes adopt very large neighborhood plans, we call them area plans in the county. The criteria says that in the statutes that says the growth policy or the area plan must be consistent with the growth policy. And, fact of the matter of is the Missoula County growth policy specifically called for the drafting and adoption of this master plan. So this is part 2 of the growth policy statutes is to amend the Missoula County land use map. On June 6 of 2019, we adopted a new land use map policy. It's a policy map for the Missoula area. And now we get to amend it to add a new land use designation, the Swift-Tupkane Area Neighborhoods Master Plan land use designation. We're doing that because the zoning is so unique compared to our current zoning statutes that or regulations that we need a specific land use designation to implement it. And third part of the motion is to amend the boundaries of an existing neighborhood plan in this area. We have currently the Y Mullen Comprehensive Area Plan encompasses this area. As you can see in this graphic here on the right, that slashed area, that's the boundaries of the proposed Swift-Tupkane area plan. And we want to basically cut out the Swift-Tupkane plan out of the proposed or the existing Y Mullen plan. So we don't have 2 area plans lying on top of each other. So that's what the first part of the motion does. The second part of the motion is related to the zoning. The second part of the motion is adopting the form-based code. And the form-based code is the text. This is the text of the zoning. The text of the zoning implements the plan. The text of the zoning actually it puts the zoning in our toolbox, but it doesn't apply it anywhere in the county. So then we have to go and do the third and final step of the motion, which is to apply it, which is the zoning map amendment. And here is the boundaries of the zoning map amendment and we've got a gray, an orange, a tan, and a blue. And those represents the neighborhood unit types in the zoning code that are on figure 2.1. So with that, that's the procedural end of things. Tom is here. Rob is here to answer questions. I'm, of course, here to answer questions. We've presented on this plan at length many, many times. I'm hoping everybody has seen it, so I'm not going to go into the details of the plan and the code. I am just going to hand it over to the commissioners for their public hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Is there any public comment on this? I'd like to open the public hearing for the general public, and then we'll have commissioner discussion and questions. Any public comment? All right. You've worn them down, Andrew.
Yeah, and I just noticed that Jason King, also with Dover Coal, is on the call as well. I didn't see his name on there earlier, so thanks for joining, Jason.
All right. Well, I will close the public hearing if no one wants to testify. And Jason or Tom, do you guys want to add anything? Anyone from Dover Coal or the city? We have a John. I don't know who it is.
John Guest.
Hi, can you hear and see me?
Oh, John, you sound terrible, though, man.
Really?
Yeah, it's all reverb.
You must have been drinking water out of Smurf's.
He sounds like Bubba Fett.
Huh. Well, that's not very helpful.
Yeah, stop.
Okay. Now I can't hear you, Dave.
Of course.
I wonder. It sounds like he needs to mute either It sounds like there's two devices. Something needs to be muted.
Is that any better? Well, I'll just say thumbs up on the plan. Sorry that I can't offer the comments, but we support it. So if you can't hear me, let's go from there.
So the Clark Fork Coalition has submitted written comments to the commissioners. They are in the commissioners' packet, and they are supportive of the plan. They would like to. I'm summarizing what John said. They would like to encourage the formation of a committee to help implement the plan, and they're willing to offer their services to be on that committee if we choose to add them. So, and they're especially interested in the restoration of Grant Creek.
Great.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Speaking on behalf in lieu of the Clark Fork Coalition. So, yeah, thanks. Anyone else want to comment? Or Tom, Dover Cole?
Dave, this is Tom Zavitz.
Yes, Tom.
And, I worked with Andrew Hagemeyer on this, and I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the opportunity to have worked with the county and with Andrew on this kind of master plan. I think we got along really well, and I hope we can do more work like this in the future. So thanks to Missoula County, and thank you to Andrew and Dover Cole as well.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, likewise, Tom.
Any questions, Juan or Josh?
I'll just make one comment. I mean, given how bounded the greater urban metropolitan area is in Missoula, and what the limited opportunities are for growth, and you add into the high demand for wanting to live here, and the need to accommodate growth, this is kind of a once in a generation opportunity for doing real planning and then turning that plan into action. And I want to commend Andrew and Tom and Dover Cole for doing such a fantastic job of accommodating growth and making sure some of our most closely held values remain intact, and that this new set of houses and neighborhoods reflect those values and don't take away from them. Often when we see this level of addition to a community, there's as much loss as there is gain, and I don't think we're getting that here. I think we're going to enhance our character. We'll see land preserved as well as land built on. Ultimately, the restoration of Grant Creek, the creation of neighborhoods, bike paths, smartly developed streets, and form-based code, where we're really kind of pioneering in the state a new way of planning neighborhoods. So I'm really excited about this and commend all the work that's gone on to make this happen, and kind of trace this back to an effort we were part of with the city and the chamber of going to DC it was like years ago now, to get the whole build project in motion. And it's wonderful to be at this point. So thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning the build grant, Josh, because this planning effort really goes hand in glove with the monies that we have received, and hopefully we'll receive yet again in the future to invest in infrastructure in this area. The other piece I just wanted to mention is giving recognition to the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes for their work and assistance in coming up with an appropriate place name for this planning area that departs from the name of Mullen, which is laden with connotations that are of manifest destiny and of really actions in the 1800s on the part of Mullen and others that led to the tremendous number of adverse consequences for Native tribes. John Mullen, Captain John Mullen, was certainly and clearly from his writings a racist and someone who did not think particularly highly of the Native peoples who occupied these areas. So I'm thrilled that the tribes were a partner in identifying an appropriate place name for the planning area. That said, and recognizing all of the attributes of the plan, it also probably needs to be said that it's not without some degree of loss, and and that the cultural landscape that that the tribes cherish so dearly will be altered in the future. But I think given the cultural context that we're in, the anticipated growth that is coming, our planners and consultants, I think, did a fantastic job of trying to enhance values that are currently degraded out in this particular area, and also looking to how to create a real vibrant community in the future. So thank you all.
I have nothing to add. That you guys, yep, this is fantastic. Other than maybe Andrew, if you could throw up that 3-layered motion up.
Good call.
Yes, that the paragraphs. Yes.
I hope you see that there. I just want to reiterate that what we are doing today is adopting resolutions of intent. The resolutions of intent for the zoning, according to statutes, there will be a 30-day period before we go back and adopt a final resolution. So we do get to look at this one last time, but today is the big day for sure.
Fantastic.
Who's-
Okay,
who-
so
Is it your turn? I can't remember whose turn it
No.
is.
it's your turn.
Your turn.
Yes.
Okay.
I just built ATV stuff.
All right. Okay, I would move that the Board of County Commissioners approve a resolution of intent to adopt the proposed Swetupcane Area Neighborhoods Master Plan as an area plan of the Missoula County Growth Policy, that the Missoula County Land Use Map, Map 18, be amended to include the Swetupcane Area Neighborhoods Master Plan land use designation, and that the boundaries of the Y. Mullen Comprehensive Area Plan be amended to exclude the proposed plan boundaries. 2, that the proposed Swetupcane Traditional Neighborhood Development Form-Based Code be adopted as a zoning regulation for a portion of Missoula County to implement the Swetupcane Area Neighborhoods Master Plan. And 3, that the proposed zoning map amendment implementing the Swetupcane Area Neighborhoods Master Plan be adopted.
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Or would you just like to table it and we'll... Oh, just a joke. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
you
Andrew
so
and
much,
Tom,
Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to our guests from Dover Cole. And thanks, Tom, for joining us.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. This was a special project.
It's great to see you guys in action.
Thank you both.
You're
Thank
coming.
you all.
You're coming close, Jason, to having played a role in planning every single square inch of the Missoula Valley. So,
As long as we're invited, we'll keep coming. We
Okay.
learned a lot from you all. It's been a lot of fun. We can't wait to get back there and visit.
well, and I guess the other obvious thing to say is so much of this work was done during the course of this pandemic and virtually, which is an amazing feat in and of itself.
Yeah, it was to watch it. The effort for the Dover Cole folks from the outside is being around with the downtown master plan and all the in-person everything, and the presentation at the Wilma and the very public nature of it. To have to pivot and do a very similar thing, but virtually, must have been quite a learning experience. And it seemed like we still got plenty of public comment and plenty of input.
That was incredible. Did we get to vote?
I think we already did.
Did we already? Did we actually all? Did we say aye?
I think
We did.
Yeah, right away.
Okay, great. Oh.
All right. Well, with that, we'll look. Andrew, when will this come back to us at a public meeting or an admin meeting?
We'll do a final resolution. It's just like the zone change, and a zone change. You know, we'll come back with the final resolution to this Thursday meeting. It is according to state law, people can continue to comment on this, and it technically is not a done deal. However, I'm going to encourage it to be a mere formality the next time we meet.
Okay.
All right.
John Hart, you are sitting there with your mood lighting on your face. What would you like to add?
Is that what it looks like that I'm down here with mood lighting? I'm in my basement bunker, which is not nearly as hip as Andrew's basement bunker. No, I just love hearing Andrew talk about how he's gonna have a 7th public meeting on this issue and how excited he is. And it seems to me that I just read something that Andrew and maybe Tom and Dover Cole got recognized nationally for the effort that they did. I dream this up, Andrew? That the planning process you all implemented during a pandemic is going to be studied by planning students for the next century. Is that correct?
It's for the next century, but not a minute longer. I think Jason has been interviewed many times by national publications. I think I would rather hand it over to Jason to describe how much attention this has received. Yeah.
Jason.
Sure. Yeah. The National Charrette Institute said this was the world's first virtual charrette, and the word charrette now is just part of planning terminology. Everyone is doing charrettes, and this was the world's first virtual one. So we were featured twice in Planning Magazine. We did 2 seminars. Each seminar was attended by over 1,000 people in April and in September, because they wanted to see how you all did it, how we managed to have inclusive public process, substantial and substantive public involvement. You know, this was a difficult project. It involved 2 municipalities, developers. The Build project gave it urgency, and Clark Fork was there to make sure that this was quality and it contributed to the environment and didn't take away from it. So the fact that we're here tonight is just really astounding. And yes, in the next edition of the National Charrette Institute Handbook, this is the case study for virtual charrettes. Yeah, this really is. And the thing is, even after COVID is over, we're going to need to continue to do this, because we talked to people we've never talked to, because it's easy for them to turn on their computer. We've talked to people from the tribal homelands. They were on with us. We've talked to people, investors from around the country who are interested in doing this project the right way, environmentalists from around the country, and people who had never been part of public meetings before. So yeah, we learned a lot. I think it's safe to say the profession of urban planning learned a lot too. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison, we ought to get the word out about all of that at some point here.
That should be out there. I agree.
Margaret's on. Margaret Full's on. She'll help get the word out.
We'll help you get the word out, Andrew.
Okay.
I wrote a blurb for the county newsletter.
That's true.
Oh. All right. Well, thanks everyone so much for a lively afternoon session here. Is there anything else to add before we sign off? Okay. We'll be adjourned.
Great job, everyone. Thanks.
Goodbye.